I'm in the middle of my water change, and I did want to take a second to show you something that I do that I think is kind of cool. I got it from the service industry. People that service aquariums, obviously, do a lot of water changes, and they want to make it as easy on them as possible. So instead of dragging buckets inside the house, this is what I set up. Okay, so we're in the garage, and you can see I got my water mixing station here. So what I do, I turn this valve, and it fills up buckets for me. So what I do is I take this off, this little filler that I got. Come over here. We've got my, let's see if I can open this up. We've got my, this is just a big long hose, right? It goes right inside my house. So I screw this back on here. Make sure it's facing towards the inside of the door so I get a little bit more space, a little bit more length out of this. And now I have, basically, this is a, what is this? This is like 25 or 50 foot RV water hose, food grade hose. So I made this little hang on thing that a lot of guys in the service industry use. So what we do is we walk inside the house, hook this over the rim of the tank, and then we come out here, turn that valve, turn the pump on, and the tank starts filling up with water. Put this in the tank. Sorry, I'm doing a bad job filming. But this could be shortened so that it doesn't lean over so much, but basically, sorry about the Halloween decorations in the back. But yeah, it basically, I just go and turn the pump on and it starts filling up my tank. So let's go do that. All right. So this is a valve to stop the water from going and recirculating. So I close this valve. Otherwise, the pump takes the path of least resistance, which is that. I open this up. I turn this on. I can adjust this how fast I want to go. But basically, you can hear it's pumping. So yeah, you see it's coming out. And now I just sit here and I wait until it's filled up. It's pretty simple. No more dragging 50-pound buckets of salt water into my house and having to pick them up, 36 inches or whatever this thing is. 5 feet probably, and tip them over the edge. No more having to have a bucket of salt water in my house the day before so that it's cool enough and then pump it into the tank. I just sit here and I let it fill up. And I basically let it get to the weir line, just right to the bottom of those teeth, and I go shut it off. Now, the one thing you do have to remember is I really should have put a valve here because this will start to siphon basically once I am full and I go shut that pump off. It's going to start to back siphon. So I really do need to put a valve here just to shut the water off and stop it from trying to drain back into that big bucket out there. But this is a pretty simple, just a pretty simple way to just do a water change. So we had the perfect amount. I draw this line in my sump right there, this little black line. These are all my water levels for each little section. So I try to keep them, this one's a little bit low right there. Sometimes it's up there, but usually about there is where I keep it. But yeah, I draw these little Sharpie lines on my sump just so that I know if I'm above or below where I typically am. That's just my reference point basically. So we're going to go through today and we're going to clean all this stuff up. I'm going to take this skimmer out and scrub it and soak it in vinegar. And one other thing that I noticed that I would like to talk about is every time I turn my pumps on and off, you could see it looks like it's snowing in there. What's really going on is I think that's a bunch of bacteria or biofilm. And every time I cycle my pumps on and off, it comes spraying out of the lines, all the plumbing and stuff, and it's just everywhere. And basically, it's not like a big deal for me, but it ends up just making the Clarice run like crazy for like 3 or 4 hours. So if that's normal and that happens to you too, let me know. If you got a solution for that, let me know. But yeah, now we have to get this 40-gallon Brute trash can outside somehow because I still don't have the caster set up for it. I don't know why those things cost more than the trash can themselves, but it's definitely not a problem that I feel like paying like $55 to solve. So I just have to drag it 5 feet behind me and dump it out my front door or my back door. So that's what I've been up to. That's what I've been doing for the last couple of years. We do have to take this gyre off. It has stopped working. I came over one day and just noticed it wasn't running. Unplugged it and plugged it back in, and it ran for about 30 minutes and then stopped. So I think today's Monday, Friday, I took it out and I disassembled it and just rinsed it off in the sink. Nothing crazy, nothing too thorough, and just reassembled it and hoped that would be enough. But it wasn't. It's still not running. So we're going to take it apart today, and we're gonna actually soak it in vinegar and go through it really well and just make sure that it may be broken, it may not be broken. I guess we're gonna have to find out. But yeah, we're gonna go take it off and clean it. All right, so here, this is half of it, right? And you've got basically a little hole right there, and you push that out. You have to get it lined up perfectly on the other end to come out. But what I hear a lot is that people say that these things are hard to put back together. And the reason for me why that is, because right here in the end, there's a little rubber bushing right in the end. And that rubber bushing sits on the end of this impeller. And usually if you soak this in some sort of chemical, it swells. It swells up really big, and then you can't put this thing back together. And then you basically have this big swollen bushing trying to get this to spin, and it doesn't work out very well. So I always take those out. That's not really something that you need to clean. But yeah, we're just tossing it right in the bucket. And we're gonna let it sit here for the day. I'm gonna put the pump body in there too. See all sorts of crud on there maybe. Hopefully it shows up. I'm just on an iPhone right now, but yeah, this pump body, it spins perfectly fine. But when I try to turn it on, way too much resistance. There's some left and right play. Not too sure how normal that is, but we're gonna clean this one. And then we're gonna go and clean the other one. Also got, this is the magnetic bracket. Got some rubber grippers there, and you just kind of pry them off the sides, and then you'll see in a second. This is gonna be way too tall and big for this bucket, but you can clean out all the junk that's in there, all the little freaking spearmint worms and all the vermitid snails and all the crap that's growing in there. You soak it, you send them off to the liquid bath. They get to meet Reef Jesus on their way home. So, all right, so this is half a gallon of vinegar, and then this is filled this bottle back up with just tap water, just to kind of soak and cover some of this more. And you also don't need pure vinegar. That's a little bit harsh. Some people are for or against vinegar. That's up to you. Do your own research. It's been about 2 hours soaking in vinegar, so we've got it all cleaned, and we're gonna plug it in and see if it still works. My favorite part about these Jebao things is when you plug them in, they shoot sparks everywhere like fireworks. Pretty fun. See if we can get it. Not this time. Oh, yeah. See, it's still just being weird. It just doesn't want to spin. Let me pull the covers off and see what that's about. All right. Well, the motor works, so it's got to be something on this end here that on one of these guys that's not letting it spin. But yeah, it works just fine. All right, so I figured out what it is. You got this little white bushing on the end. I didn't take it off when I cleaned it, but it's completely seized on there. So I'm going to have to re-soak this side and get that off there very gently without breaking it. All right, we're not out of the woods yet, so I got it off. Threw it back in there without filming it, obviously. But yeah, we're going to let that soak for a little bit longer, and hopefully it should be good after this. It all soaked, and you can see works good now. So we're going to reassemble it, and hopefully we can put this back in there and get it working again. All right, let's plug it in. See how this goes. A little bit difficult. Oh, there are my sparks. That's sweet. Got it working again. Should go right back in the tank and keep chugging along. About 90 bucks. Way better than my Vortex. I was just telling someone, why did it just stop? What are you doing? Trying to give me a heart attack? Back to work, bud. Uh-oh. Spoke too soon, man. I tell you. I'm going to send you to Waste Management if you're not going to cooperate with me. Maybe it just needs to be in water. Maybe it needs some resistance. But yeah, I was just telling someone, this thing cost me less than an MP40 wet side. I was telling Kalamazoo Reefer that. Yeah, this thing, I mean, 90 bucks, right? And the MP40 wet sides that I was blowing through every 3 months, having to call Ecotech and scream at them and say, why does this thing suck so bad? Why do you take all my money? Now I'm poor, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I mean, like, I can get a whole new unit for $90 versus just getting a quarter of an Ecotech MP40. This is like brainless, right? To me, at least to me. I don't like flashy stuff that much anymore. I've been turned off from flashy stuff in this aquarium hobby just from my experience in the first year. So happy this is working. I'm gonna throw it back in the tank and get my corals happy again. All right, well look at that. She's back to work. Vacation's over, boss. Back to work. She's ripping, and this is only at half speed. Let's turn her up. I'll show you what she does. Get her going. Now she's gonna be ripping. Look at that. Make a freaking tornado in your fish tank for $90. Not $500, $90. And you can take your girl on a vacation when you're done too. Isn't that sweet? I could buy 5 of those for the price of one MP40. It's got a controller, buttons, lots of buttons. You know, I turn it on, I leave it alone. So now we're in front of the 10 gallon. I think we're at like a month and a half. It's doing pretty good. The only issue that I'm noticing is you see the window right there, light shining in. All this green that's growing on this rock is basically every single light path, like light ray or whatever you want to call it, that's coming from this direction, from this window. The whole side of that rock is green. Every single like back side of the rock. But the front, perfectly fine. So something to watch out for. I may just put some black vinyl on the side just to block the sun out completely. Really don't want to have to do that because I really want to view this tank from all the sides. But otherwise, clownfish are doing good. Everything's going well. Hoping to add some corals soon. I really want to get some really, really clean coral, like nothing. I have a lot of remitted snails in all my tanks, so I'm trying to not transfer that into here. So I am looking for some, I know exactly what I want, but I'm just holding off until I do come across it. And it's like pretty much pest free, right? I don't want remitids in this thing. I don't want this tank to be like the other tank I have. So we are working on that remitted problem over there though. Let's go look at that. They're on the bottom side of most of the rocks. You can say whatever you want about them, you know, pest or not pest. I consider them a pest because obviously they're unsightly, but what they do is I just had to take out this hammer right in front of us today because it was growing all around its base basically. And what happens is those little hard stems, those little, you know, the little things there, they end up poking it and they're all competing for space. And then when these remitids try to go out and start feeding, they irritate the coral. So every few months I go through and I basically just like have to run my fingers along the base of all these corals and through the skeleton and everything. And I've been doing that on the rocks too. I've been taking my hand and just basically like every time I do a water change, I'll take my hand and just like scrub it on the rock basically and try and knock a lot of the stuff off. But what I'm doing otherwise to get rid of it is I've stopped feeding frozen food. I've noticed that since I've changed to, you know, these frozen cubes that I throw the whole thing in there, I've noticed that they've just basically exploded. I'm also doing a little coral snow here and there. When I see that they're out feeding and all the other little, you know, the worms come out of the tube and everything, the snails come out of the tube, then I throw in some coral snow because the theory is the coral snow can block the passageway for that little snail to get in and out. So we are just doing basically just dry food right now, like pellets and flakes and stuff like that. Holding off on, I don't really feed my corals with like reefroids and stuff like that. I stopped a long time ago. I don't use Red Sea AB+, the amino acids and any of that stuff. I'm pretty much just chuck a whole cube of frozen food in there and I let it go. So otherwise, most of these corals don't get fed. Let's see if we could figure one out here. Yeah, you can see right here on this Favia, just right around the base, it's just competing for space with each other. And eventually, every once in a while, you can see right there in the middle of the screen, that thing is going to poke through that coral. So I'm eventually going to have to go and crush that and get it out of there. I do think that this tank also needs more light. That's a ladder behind me, geez. Because the backside of the corals, like this guy right here, the backside of him is very nice and bright and colorful, but the part that I get to see is very dull. So if I come around to the side and I try to look at him from like this angle or something, it's insane. Like it's a whole nother coral. It's bright and vivid and it's multicolored and it's really cool. This guy right here too. The whole bottom half of this first branch and all that, it's dark, it's pale. But when I go around again to the other side, it's this nice, bright, vivid green coral. And I'm basically just not able to view my my corals the way I want. So sorry again about the Halloween decorations. They're kind of everywhere right now. I do think I might put some bars on there to kind of maybe project some light at the face. But that's something I need to look into and ask some people about. All right, let's check out these Nacerius snail eggs down here. This was in the tank, and I think Homegrown Corals is his username. He wanted me to put this in the sump. A couple of people messaged me, so... Oh boy, right there you got a whole bunch of Nacerius snail eggs, pretty much covering this thing. Got some more right there in the middle too. Nothing on the back, but yeah. 3 sides. So we're gonna leave us down in the sump, high up, and we're gonna hope that I'm the dad of a bunch of Nacerius snails, because that would be pretty cool. So I have bred Trochus snails in this tank before, and basically I must have had like 75 to 100 of them because they were just everywhere. I have a lot of pictures of them. But yeah, I had 75 to 100 of them. They did well for a while, but eventually, you know, they just not enough food in the tank for them, so they all just starved out and died. I moved a lot of them to another tank too. Scooped out a handful, put them in the 10-gallon tank I have. Figured I would just make my rounds now since I'm already halfway done talking about the other tanks I have. So still have the lyre-tailed Anthias in here. The corals that I bought from the frag swap obviously didn't survive. I made it 2 or 3 days and they were done. Bleached white. See where those are at. They're right there. Didn't survive. They didn't even really look good once I actually brought them home. I think frag swap lighting's a little deceptive, but once I brought them home and really started looking at the flesh on it, it looked, how do I say? It looked very staticky. It looked like TV static. It wasn't very full like it was. It just looked very, very porous. The flesh. It was weird. Really not that upset about it, honestly. I was just, is what it is at this point, right? The seagrass is hanging on in there. There's some funk going on. Probably because, I don't know, actually. Anyways, whatever. So we've got this 40-gallon breeder stand, and I have the tank too. It was actually given to me by a neighbor. Someone in the neighborhood on like a Facebook group was just like, yeah, anybody want this? So jumped over to their house and picked it up, and I haven't really been using the 40-gallon breeder. I was using it originally to like quarantine and hold stuff, but you know, as I got smarter through that process, I realized that's way too big of a tank. Good for holding tangs and stuff if you're going to quarantine a tang, but otherwise just too much water for me to constantly keep draining and filling and taking the thing outside and cleaning it, because we're on the 2nd floor of my house, so taking a 40-gallon breeder down the stairs, not really that fun. So, and very scary. You know, you can break it every single time you move it. But I've just been using this stand just to stack 10 gallons on there. The quarantine tank that's over there now used to be on top. Took the lyre tail out of there, obviously, and took that outside and wiped it out and cleaned it with bleach and all sorts of stuff and let it air dry. Filled it back up with salt water. The purple firefish and the goby in here are going to make their way into that quarantine tank. I am just waiting for this storm to pass. I don't really want to upset them and disturb them, not knowing if I'm going to have power or not. I've never gone through a hurricane in this home. We've only lived here for like 2.5, 3 years. So I don't really know what the situation here with how robust the electrical grid is in this area. My previous house, it was bulletproof. I lived next to a grocery store. I lived next to a school. So the power was the first to come back on either way, but almost never went out because they've buried most of the electrical lines in this state now. So that's what I got on my list. I really need to get rid of this stand because I think I want to extend this wood framing a little bit farther that way. I have been kind of tinkering with it. I've been putting, plywood on top. I need to get some more for the bottom. Just kind of not really wanting to spend money on fish tank stuff right now. I've got some house projects I'm trying to finish up. So this is like a very slow back burner type of thing. When I have extra money and extra time and I feel like doing all that, that's when that gets done. So, so far though, we're not too heavily invested cost wise. I mean, maybe about $150, but I do want to, panel the bottom, and I got to panel the side, and I want to put some decorative trim on it just to make it look not so utilitarian. But yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing in here. Got a box full of aquarium gear and stuff like that. Fish tanks in the closet. I really needed to put an ATO on this tank, so I did that. This tank evaporates an insane amount of water for some reason. This tank will evaporate like half a gallon a day, and that will evaporate like a gallon a month. It's insane. Yeah, I don't know why this tank evaporates so much. It's probably just the surface area. I almost feel like it evaporates more than my 150 gallon tank. But just from 2 days, right? I filled this up on Friday afternoon. We're down to there. So maybe about a gallon and a half so far. It's just ripping through water. But yeah, need to get that going. That's about it. That's about all that's going on in here. So got my cool Neptune Sky hanging up here on my little DIY thing for very temporary purposes until I decide what I want to do in here. I do have a vision to have like a wooden bar going across with a bunch of like nautical rope and all the lights are hanging off kind of like pendants. I think it could be pretty cool. Have a bunch of like sea lanterns and stuff. But yeah, that's about all I got. So, oh, I did get this thing too. Seche contactless scuba. Very consistent heater, holds the temperature very well. The contactless part, meh. I think it's a bit of a gimmick. Even from putting my phone up to the glass, I can't communicate with the heater. So the whole reason of it is, you know, to be like a wireless controllable heater. I don't really find it to be of value other than it being a very consistent heater with holding its temperature very, very well. So that's about it. I did want to mention before I go, I did start an aquarium club. I think I've mentioned that about 700 times already since I made my first video, which is only about the third video right now, so it's quite a bit. Our first meeting is going to be November 9th at 3 p.m. The topic is going to be how to quarantine corals. It's going to be about how to set up a quarantine tank, how to set up, how to get your lights all set up right, what to look for on, you know, coral pests and how to dip them, and basically what to look out for, and, you know, all sorts of things, what medications you may not need, what the pests are, what they do, what they don't do. Just any questions you may have. I think it's probably going to be about an hour, hour and a half. We may go get some food after that. Put on by the vice president, vice president of the aquarium club. His name's Tommy. He owns a pet store named Technicians. They quarantine everything, the fish, the corals, everything except for the customers, right? It'd be pretty weird if he started quarantining all of his customers that walked in the door, but pretty much everything that comes in his front door or his back door, no pun intended, gets quarantined. So hope to see you there. It's completely free. I think I mentioned that. The first one's completely free. I just want you to experience it. I want you to see if you like it. I want to say hi. I want to chat with you. We do have Instagram. And we do have a Facebook group, and we have a Facebook page. Maybe we'll do a YouTube video. Maybe we'll start recording some of these things and putting them out there. But yeah, hope to see you there. It's $25 once we do have sign up. It's $25 for an adult 18 years or older. And then we have a family membership plan, and it's $35, and it can be for 2 adults and a child. Yeah, it's pretty cheap for a whole year, 12 months, $25 to $35. You get access to all sorts of cool stuff. Pretty much anybody that we have a meeting with. We're going to have a meeting with a guy who is an expert on octopuses pretty soon, sometime early next year. We might do an aquascaping, freshwater aquascaping meeting, how to do all that. I want to do some fish unboxings for like stores. I got a whole list of things I want to do. I just need to find the people to put on the presentations, and we also need to find a permanent space to basically operate out of. There's lots of places you can, like libraries and stuff like that are completely free to nonprofits. But I do need to just kind of go down that road and find basically like a home for the club. So if you have any suggestions or anybody has any space, public space, that can hold maybe 40 to 50 people, let me know. Anywhere in the Palm Beach County area, anywhere from Boca to Jupiter. So that's about all I got. Thanks.